Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome back to an episode of Shrinks Chat. I'm Annette Reiter.
And I'm Monica Burton, and today we're going to be talking about change and seasonal changes in our lives because we are stepping into the fall. So we just wanted to talk about when we go through different changes or transformations.
Yeah, we are recording this on absolutely the first day of fall here in Florida, but it'll air about a week later. But nonetheless, it's, even feeling a little bit cooler this morning in Florida. So, which for us is, big deal. For those of you who have lived in hot climates, you know that first time you don't have to put the air conditioning on in the morning feels great. So it was a good morning coming in. But I think it's this whole environment. Like March, we went into lockdown here, and lots of things are changing, and we're headed into, here in our county, we've been at a floating average of 2.9 or less % with this pandemic. So people are talking about going back to work, places are opening. Aren't you going to some sporting practice tonight or something with kids?
Yeah, at our school, my oldest son, he's starting volleyball. And since he can't play football, he still wanted to do sports. So volleyball is his new sport for this season. And my younger son is trying out for basketball. So we can do some of these sports outside still. So this is the first time since March that we've been really busy. And I've just noticed that I'm kind of doing this dance of holding on and letting go. So I thought we could kind of talk about change and this notion of holding on and letting go, because we see this in our lives. And as you said, we started lockdown in March. So we've kind of been through, this is the third season that we're going, that we're experiencing coronavirus and really how our lives have changed. In my opinion, it's been lockdown in the spring.
Yeah.
Summertime was opening, like we're starting to open again, and then closing because the numbers skyrocketed here in Florida. And then in the fall, I feel like, at least through my own lens and my experience, we're kind of in this acceptance stage of what this looks like how to live our lives in the midst of still having this pandemic around, making sense of some sort of normalcy.
Right. And, wearing masks has just become, I think, how awkward it used to be, and how what, we're really going to wear masks, and how we were all kind of looking at each other above our masks differently. And and now it's just right. And now we're just all used to it. And if anything, it's almost become a separate accessory where people have, I even saw somebody with a Louis Vuitton mask. I don't know if it was real, maybe it's a fake one, but nonetheless, it was kind of cute, that.
Yeah. No, I heard on the radio, I think it was Louis Vuitton or one of those expensive companies. They were selling a mask for $1,000 or something. So now designers are even having their own mask if you want to pay the price.
Right. Yeah. I think we're getting into some comfort in that this is our new reality. And as things reopen, and how to reopen with, bottles of hand sanitizer everywhere, and, lots of cleaning and stuff like that, we're finding a way to comfortably get back to a life with also a pandemic. But there's some losses, right? I think I love, you always do that thing of holding on and letting go. That's a good way that you put it. And there's some losses too as we get busy. So things are changing.
Yeah, what I've noticed is, and this is me, so I'll give you a little self-disclosure about Monica Burton here. When things are changing in my life, I really notice that I hold on. And I'm I hold on to, I don't want to do this, or this is, I go into this almost negative thinking about whatever is, I know that I'm getting ready to step into. And I do know, I think some of that's about fear. For example, with the boys, I'm actually pretty excited about the boys getting into sports again, but I've noticed being busy I get frustrated. It's like, oh, and I hold on to like, or I long for that time when we went into quarantine and it was like, we didn't have anything to do at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
But then at the same time, I remember when we were in quarantine, I was like fighting it. I was like, we're not going to be in quarantine for too long. It's only going to be a couple weeks, so it's like, it's funny how we, through these different seasons, through these
Hmm.
different, changes, we, we remember things differently, but it's a dance of holding on and letting go. And I know, like, I guess part of that is understanding like how you respond to change and when fear starts to present itself and how you respond or react to fear.
Right. Well, there's a loss, right? The
Hmm.
whole world slowed down, and then, in each state kind of slowed down, and people locked up, and our our daughter's off, so we're not parenting anymore. But I've even noticed, like, we've had a couple social distance um, dinners out back with a couple and us, and I mean, it's fun, and we're having a great time. It's fun to see people again,
Hmm.
socially distanced, very safe folks. But it's also like, oh, it's not going to just be the two of us anymore. It's been fun that it was just,
Hmm.
guaranteed only us. So, it's
Hmm.
also, oh, we don't have to argue with each other as much anymore. We can argue about other people.
Right, right.
But so again, it's that fear dance that we're always in, a like, we're letting go, and then we're like holding on, or we're trying to control some outcome because we have fear of the change. This
Hmm.
is a seasonal change, and it is a change. We're gonna change. It's gonna be a little different.
Hmm. For sure.
So we're letting go of, anytime you're letting go of how it's been, that's like an idea in your head.
Hmm.
And there's an idea in your head that it should stay the same. And then, anytime it should stay the same, if you heard me say that,
Should.
I'm like holding on to an idea,
Right.
because of course it already changed once I said it should stay the same, and now that made it different than the way it
Hmm.
was. And that began the change of it being different, and it will be different.
Right. And we also see this, both of us, we see this, and not only in our own lives, but in our practice. When
Mhm.
relationships start to change, whether it's parts of your own life individually starting to change or in the context of like a romantic relationship, we do the dance of holding on and letting go. And, I always ask couples or even individuals, like, what are we holding on to? What are we afraid to let go of? And I notice in that discussion, it's fear again pops up, the fear of change. And when we fear something, what do we normally do? Either we get paralyzed and we stay stuck in the same system, or we try to control things.
Mm.
You said
Right,
it earlier, control the outcome.
right. If you're starting to get something wanting to turn out a certain way that you're probably not in control and of, then that may be, you might want to just address your fears a little bit and look for that. Now, of course, it's good to have goals. That controlling the outcome is different than goals. And
Hmm.
usually goals kind of involve you.
Right.
Controlling the outcome usually controls other people, how they're going to be, how they're going to act, how they should be. That's when you start to know, when you're saying those kind of words, you're controlling the outcome.
Hmm.
Um, and you're really listening to yourself is not a bad idea when you're talking, because it can
Right.
help you see, like, oh, sometimes I'll say, oh, Annette, you're afraid. But I mean, a lot of things are starting to change. Kids are going back to school and college, and some even kids that started school, online, are now looking at, they're going to start going in person.
Hmm.
Life just kept going on during the pandemic, even if they didn't launch traditionally off to college. I had some friends and clients, kids who went ahead and got an apartment, right? And so they didn't go to college the traditional way, but they went ahead and got a house or an apartment with their roommates. So, that's kind of what we call like that launching phase of life. And letting go is usually just letting go of an idea of how it used to be,
Mm-hmm.
It's not really letting go of anything because it's just air. You're not really holding on to anything. It's just an idea.
Right.
There's nothing to hold on to. Like, it's not a pillow or a blanket. It's an idea of, some people's kids in my practice, particularly a lot, and living in Florida, we've had a lot of people from other states that were more impacted by COVID come back and live with their parents. And I've been hearing how a lot of them are going back home to their house. And that's kind of hard. That's a little like, oh, it's
Mm-hmm.
fun to have my, you know, 28-year-old kid home for 3 months. Who would have thought that would ever happen again?
Right. Mm-hmm. So I think it's also understanding there's going to be a little bit of grief
Mm-hmm.
during the dance of holding on and letting go. I think sometimes you let go of parts of who you used to be also,
Mm-hmm.
and just understanding that as well. When couples show up and they want to control each other, it's like, it's that fear of change, like you were just talking about. And it's looking at, what parts of you are you letting go of, and understanding that change isn't bad. The only constant is change. I think we've said that in one of our YouTube videos before. And change isn't bad, it's just different.
Right. And it's always happening. You're not stopping it from happening.
Right.
Change
Holding
is
on
always
to,
happening.
yeah, holding on to that idea doesn't mean change isn't going to occur. It's still going to occur.
Yeah. And so some ideas that I try to think about in practice and in my own life of uh, is be curious, right? Like,
Yeah.
instead of holding on or trying to control the outcome with a bunch of people, you're all going to behave this way, be curious. So look for words like should. If you have a lot of shoulds in your head and a shoulds coming out, or absolutes, we all have to. It should be this way. All the absolutes, you never, you always. Those absolute words are telling you you're getting very controlling of outcome.
Right.
And you're probably, kind of pissing other people off. That's what happens. Like, it's just human nature to get frustrated as a fellow adult, either as a partner or as a colleague or as a friend, to be told. Nobody likes to be told. They like to be invited. They like to be curious. They like to have a conversation, but nobody likes to be told. And we all do it. I mean, we all do it. Monica, you and I do it to each other.
Right.
We catch each other and laugh, but everybody tells somebody, don't do that, do this, whatever, something.
Right. And to put a little Star Wars reference in, only the Sith speak in absolutes. So those Star Wars fans out there know what I'm talking about. But basically,
Right.
it's, when you get into that absolute, you turn to the dark side. No, but you get controlling, you're fear-based. You typically don't make the best decisions for yourself or someone else. So, I love the word, instead of being controlling, be curious. Curiosity opens doors. Control and fear closes them. So that's a good, good thought. How can I be curious?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ask a question rather than tell somebody what to do or tell them how it needs to be or must be.
Mm-hmm.
If your fear is telling you it must be this way, you might want to look at it, because it might be able to be a little bit different, and you might be locking someone down to an idea. I'm sure we all have somebody in our, text groups that we have to be involved with, or our Facebook groups that we have to be involved with. I know when my kid was little, we were involved with several closed Facebook groups for the various sports we were on, because that's how they connect nowadays. That put out these statements that are just like, everybody will bring apple juice, like you're just gonna, or whatever. They just tell you what to do. Like, that we've never agreed upon this yet, but here, let me tell you what you're gonna do. Like, rather than like, let's have a little discussion. Let's pretend like the rest of us have a voice here. So
Right. So I think, again, guys, it's looking at when we are going through change, it's how can we look at and understand that it's a process of holding on and letting go. And instead of jumping into fear, acknowledging our grief and being open and being curious about the process. Just like in nature, this whole podcast is, seasonal change. Nature goes through the same dance,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Let's take a quick break to thank our sponsors. Make sure you follow us on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel now, Shrinks Chat, and we also have our Instagram and our Facebook page, and check us out there. And also a big shout out to our sponsors.
Chosen by leading interventionists, doctors, and therapists, Origin's nationally accredited world-renowned addiction treatment programs provide comprehensive care for adults, including those with serious psychiatric and medical disorders. Call 844-502-HOPE to speak confidentially with an expert, or visit us at originsrecovery.com to learn more.
I've had this problem.
Big problem.
I really needed
a good therapist.
And I kept searching and searching.
There are so many choices.
It's really hard to find one that has all the things on my list.
But I finally did it.
Yes. Thank you.
If you were looking for one as well,
look no further.
Here's a really good one.
Just use mine.
Use mine.
I'm very satisfied.
Definitely recommend. Problem gone.
Thank you.
Monica Burton is a licensed marriage and family therapist based in St. Petersburg, Florida, with over 17 years of experience. Monica offers individual, family, and couples therapy, and during this time of COVID-19 is offering teletherapy. Monica invites you to check out her YouTube channel, where she offers great tips and advice on relationships, parenting, family health, resolving conflict, and coping with stress. Go to YouTube to find Monica Burton, LMFT. There are new segments every Thursday. Or check out Monica's website at monicaburtonlmft.com.
What if you could train your brain to think healthier thoughts? Cope Notes uses daily text messages to help you do exactly that. All you need is a cell phone and a brain. To learn more and try it for yourself, visit www.copenotes.com.
Welcome back, everyone. We are talking about change, seasonal change, and the dance of holding on and letting go. This is another episode of Shrink Chats, and I'm Monica Burton.
Hi, I'm Annette Reiter, and I'm thinking about fall and pumpkin spice everything. But I'm also thinking how fall is letting go of, the leaves and preparing to go into a little bit of a hibernation. I mean, for us here in Florida, it's actually, we get to come out of hibernation and go back outside and not drip sweat all the time. So,
Right.
But it's a big transition, no matter where you have fall.
Right. Yeah, that's just it. No matter what kind of change you're going through, it's change. And we all deal or cope with change in different ways. Just like in nature in the different parts of our world. So I think, it's important to look at as we go through this dance of holding on and letting go, it's being reflective and asking that curiosity of what we're talking about earlier, just this reflection of in what am I holding on and letting go of, what do I want to learn and what's important, like with the kids and I, and my own experience of I missed some of that, really quality time. Now, not all of it was quality time when we were trying to do virtual school. I'm just going to be honest there. But it's, what am I really missing? And to me, it's just remembering how to create quality time, even as we get really busy. And so one way that we do that is we have family dinners. We're still able to do family dinners every night. Or, we can read a book before we read together as a family before we go to bed. So, I think, or on the weekends when we have a little bit more time because we're not jam-packed with stuff just yet. So I think, guys, it's just looking at what parts am I really missing and how can I recreate that in our life right now, even though it might look just a little bit different. But if we stay stuck in the fear or control, then we don't learn from it and we don't remember, like, what do I really want? If we stay stuck, we can't transform into something different.
I was just thinking of that whole dynamic that you were talking about with fear and holding on and letting go and what do I have to learn? Like, that's such a nice way to put it. I was thinking about like being curious and asking questions. And what I realized is we all kind of do the same thing. Like, I'm really resistant when I notice change has to happen. And so then if I get really resistant, that feeling of resistance is like, I'm like a little bit of a teenager. Like, I'm not going to do that. You know, yeah, I'm not going to, you're not going to tell me what to do, right? Whatever version of teenager you are, you know, whatever smart alecky you are. Yep. And then I kind of get like righteous, right? Because, you know, I'm bright, like a lot of adults are. So we have a lot of competence. So we have a lot of confidence, but it can get egocentric. So I get a little righteous. And then I may try to tell people what to do because I know best, right? So I'm going to, not as a therapist, hopefully, beyond what I'm supposed to tell them, but I'm talking about in my own world.
Right.
They are paying me to tell them something, but and so, you know, how to kind of go through this process. And sometimes, you know, what helps is sometimes you're in a messaging with a Facebook message with a real jerk, like a real righteous, I know it all type of person. And like, if I can just see myself in them and go, oh, Annette, they're you, just like 100 times worse. But, you know, maybe it's only like 5 times worse, but I imagine that I'm so much better. But my point being is like, if I can just see like, and try to have a little compassion, you know, I always say the C words help better than the F words, you know, fear and the other ones. And how to have a little compassion and curiosity, and maybe they'll get out of their first bout of resistance. Because I think sometimes for other people, it's their first bout of resistance is telling the group or everybody what to do or how it has to be. And so then just kind of, and then they get into their righteousness a little bit too. So just following, you know, compassion, curiosity, kindness. These things kind of can help us through all of this. And we're all struggling with this pandemic. And I mean, there's been a lot of changes. I mean, we're talking about seasonal changes, but for golly sakes, Monica, how many changes do you feel like you've been through? I feel like I've been through like 15 years in 1 week.
The waves and waves of changes. And I feel like it's the abrupt change. Like, for those of you who've had a newborn, you know, like, just when you think you got it, it's completely different, you know, and it just is like that. Or like right when you think your little baby is asleep and then they wake up and then you wake up and you're like, oh, to me, that's what it's been like. It's like, just when I think we've gotten some sort of adjustment, it's like something new has changed with this whole pandemic. But I think that that's a good, like, it's the step process, like you were saying. It's like this resistance and then the righteousness. And if we can just look at it through a different lens, like understand yourself and how you respond to it, instead of looking at someone else, and show up with compassion. I think that's a good, you know, and even some self-compassion too.
And this is, I mean, if for those of you who have listened into some of our relationships, I mean, episodes, this is relationship communication 101, right? Like, if you're going to resistance and righteousness and indignation and, you know, pointing the finger and not seeing yourself in this. And this is tempting right now, and not to get political, but of course our political parties are doing a lot of this right now, rather than trying to work together and see what we have in common, right? Commonalities, compassion, curiosity. These are all better ways than righteousness, indignation, you know.
For sure.
So we've talked about all of these ways to communicate better as a couple. But all the stuff that we talk about as a couple, we talked about also with like Dr. Shanitsky last episode on, you know, how to to become better athletes, to become, the superstar athletes do all of these techniques we're talking about really well, but they do it with themselves.
Right.
They don't have failures. They use everything that didn't go right as an attack to work better at it.
Right. Well, instead of staying stuck in a negative story, so sometimes you have to look at yourself and how to get out of that negative story, and then step outside of yourself too and show up with compassion instead of criticism. Show up with what can I understand, or how can I understand this better? So I think those are important techniques. It's like when we're in this dance of holding on and letting go, it's how can I create this space of openness and understanding, curiosity, and what do I need to understand about myself? Like, how am I showing up and letting go of that negative story?
Yeah, I mean, so like a negative story could be an example of like somebody says something in your group, like everybody needs to bring apple juice. And then I could respond in my head, the negative story could be, I'm so sick of Susan telling me what to do. God, who the hell she thinks she is? The boss of this group? She's not even she's not even the director. She's not even the coach. Why is she always telling us what to do? Or I could say, it's good that Susan gets us organized and starts like leading the crowd, because, crowds can be like, moo, they need somebody on the horse kind of pushing them. So, it's just which story suits me better. And if I want to be fearful, if I want to be angry, if I want to be frustrated, if I want to be outraged, then the story that Susan's the problem works. But if I want to be compassionate and curious and working with and feel more positive, then the story that, she's trying her best. And this works with your partner too. Like if you want to be like hurt and your feelings show up as hurt, you may tell the story of like how they hurt you, right? Like,
Right. So Dr. Shinitsky in that episode, sports, it was champion mindset for those who want to go listen. He brought up, what's my perspective? Is it positive or negative? And then how do I talk about it? And then what's my behavior that follows? And so I think we can even apply that to this whole, when we're going through change or this dance of holding on and letting go, what's my perspective about it? Is it positive or negative? How do I think about it? How do I talk about it? And then what's my behavior that follows? And again, it's self-reflection, or like you're saying, even in the context of relationships, when we're going through relationship change.
Right, because the relationship with yourself and the voices in your head is also very reflective of the relationship with other people.
Right.
It turns out.
Who would have thought?
Yeah. This seems so obvious to therapists, but we also realize when we're being kind of joking and flipping about this, we're letting you into a little chat amongst therapists. How Monica and I are talking is often how therapists talk, but it's so obvious when you sit with families and couples and individuals, and as Monica and I have done thousands and thousands, and Dr. Shininsky, thousands and thousands upon thousands of people, what you start to realize is there's some commonalities to how we function, how humans think, how brain wiring works. And that's why therapy works, where it can't change you, but it can actually free you to change yourself.
Right.
And that's kind of maybe what fall could do. Like maybe this seasonal change where this could be your opportunity to kind of free yourself. Right. And, shed some dead leaves, take some time to figure out how you want to be, and create a plan with your positive or negative thinking, which way you want that to go.
Right. And yes, while we're therapists, we also go through our own dance. We have our own lives of holding on and letting go. And just like I was saying at the beginning, guys, I'm in the midst of it right now with, another change related to the pandemic. It's a good one, but it's a good one because I am excited to get back into some sense of normalcy in sports and I guess some chaos, family chaos of being busy is a good thing. But, like you're saying, Annette, when the leaves change, when we go through different changes, it does open up, with every ending, there is a new beginning. And, but we have to go through the process of ending. So this fall is, things are, we got to let go of some things as we go into winter. But remember, spring and summer happen too.
Mm-hmm.
So guys, what do you want to learn from whatever the holding on, letting go dance that you're going through right now in your own life? And be compassionate and be curious.
Right. And, I got to tell you, Monica, as a very important, poignant ending note, I just want to say I'll be happy to get rid of the pumpkin spice everything in the grocery store. I don't need any more pumpkin spice potato chips. And could we overdo it anymore? No wonder we're all so happy to see that change go away.
Right. All right. Although some pumpkin flavor is good.
Yeah, I like it in my coffee. Pumpkin spice latte. But there, I'm also, when it goes away, I'm like happy to know that it'll come back next year.
Right. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening to our podcast today on holding on and letting go and seasonal change. And don't forget to go to our Facebook, Instagram, and our YouTube page.
Bye now.
Bye.